In the volatile theater of global politics, a single spark can ignite a firestorm. Tonight, that spark has been struck, and the world is holding its breath. Right now, the world is watching. The United States and Israel have launched coordinated strikes against Iran. Military hardware is moving across continents and oceans. Critical shipping lanes are under immediate threat, sending shockwaves through the global economy. And the question on every geopolitical analyst's desk is no longer just about military strategy. The real question is political, and it centers on one man. Is Donald Trump winning this war? Or is he slowly, catastrophically, losing control of it? Because here's the thing most analysts miss when they focus only on explosions and troop movements. Modern wars aren't measured solely by battlefield results. They're measured by the strength of your alliances, who's standing with you when the pressure mounts. They're measured by economic stability, what the conflict is costing your own people at the gas pump and in the grocery store. They're measured by domestic political support, whether your own base stays behind you or if cracks begin to show. And crucially, they're measured by international legitimacy, whether the world sees you as a stabilizer or as an unpredictable accelerant pouring fuel on the fire. On every one of those critical measures, the picture for the Trump administration is dangerously complicated. To understand what's really happening, we have to go deep. Let's start with the pressure point everyone needs to understand: the Strait of Hormuz. Roughly 20% of the world's oil supply moves through this narrow strip of water. Every supertanker headed to Europe and Asia passes through it. Iran knows this and has threatened to close it. When shipping disruptions started, global markets moved immediately. That's when Trump revealed a strategic shift, calling on other countries to join a naval coalition to secure the strait. We're talking Britain, France, Japan, South Korea, and even China. The administration that launched strikes unilaterally is now asking geopolitical rivals to help manage the aftermath. That's not a sign of control. That's a sign of exposure. The reasons are layered: fear of escalation, domestic political pressure back home, fundamental uncertainty about what this war's objectives actually are, and a deep concern about getting pulled into a prolonged regional conflict with no clear exit. Which raises the uncomfortable geopolitical question of this moment. If your allies won't stand with you, are you leading or are you standing alone? In the immediate aftermath, oil prices became the real-time barometer of this conflict. The global market, a notoriously skittish beast, reacted with predictable alarm. At the peak of uncertainty, prices for Brent crude surged past $100 per barrel, a psychologically significant threshold. Traders and governments were pricing in a nightmare scenario: the possibility that the Strait of Hormuz, the world's most important oil choke point, could actually be disrupted at scale. A full closure would have been a catastrophic blow to the global economy. Then, just as quickly, something interesting happened. Prices fell sharply, more than 5% in a single session. This wasn't a gradual cooling off, it was a sudden reversal. This suggested that the big money, the institutional investors, believed the worst-case scenarios were off the table. The market was signaling that major disruptions could be avoided, at least for now. This is where the economic reality collides with the political battle. The Trump administration argued the war was a necessary action that would ultimately stabilize energy markets by removing a threat. But critics argued the opposite: that the conflict itself was the source of the chaos. Their logic is simple. Without the initial strikes, you don't get the spike in the first place. The volatility, they claim, was an entirely self-inflicted wound. For ordinary voters and small businesses, the high-level geopolitical debate is academic. For them, the question is brutally simple and deeply personal. Is my gas more expensive because of this war, or not? Is the cost of shipping my goods higher? With crucial midterm elections approaching, that one question, felt at the pump and in every household budget, could define the political fallout more than any battlefield report or diplomatic cable. But there's a critical fault line emerging, one the mainstream press is largely underplaying. It's not coming from his usual opponents, but from within. Some of Trump's own most ardent supporters. The deeply influential isolationist wing of the MAGA movement are starting to ask hard, uncomfortable questions. Voices that once amplified his every move are now expressing skepticism, creating a fissure in his political armor that can't be easily ignored. Their argument is simple and powerful. Why is America entangled in another Middle East conflict? The US is now a net energy exporter. So why are we dying on this hill for global oil routes? They argue that protecting the Strait of Hormuz primarily benefits the economies of Japan, South Korea, and Europe, not the American taxpayer. It's a direct challenge to the core logic of the intervention, framed in the very America First language Trump himself championed. This creates a profound political paradox that Trump has not fully resolved. He built a significant part of his brand on ending endless wars and bringing troops home. He won millions of votes by promising to stop sending American money and American lives into what he called foolish Middle Eastern entanglements. For many of his followers, this wasn't just a policy position, it was a sacred promise. Now he's leading one. The tension inside his coalition is palpable and growing. This isn't a debate that can be dismissed with a tweet. It's a fundamental contradiction of his political identity, and it's not going away quietly. There's another front in this war that most people haven't fully processed yet. The administration's communications operation at the FCC has reportedly threatened broadcasters with potential license consequences over what it characterized as misleading war coverage. Critics say this intimidates journalists, that it blurs the line between state power and press freedom in ways that should alarm anyone who believes in independent reporting. Supporters say the media is spreading misinformation about battlefield outcomes, and that accountability is appropriate. Wherever you land on that, the situation has opened a second front: the battle over the narrative itself. In modern conflicts, that battle matters as much as anything happening on the ground. One detail increasingly noticed in Washington circles. J.D. Vance has been unusually quiet. Historically, vice presidents become key public voices during wartime. They validate the mission. They make the rounds. They signal unity at the top. Vance has largely stayed out of the spotlight. Political analysts have started asking why. Is he deliberately distancing himself from a war that may become unpopular with the base? Is there internal disagreement being managed out of public view? Or is the White House tightly controlling messaging to prevent any signal of division? We don't have a definitive answer, but in geopolitics, absence is never neutral. Sometimes what leaders choose not to say is the most revealing signal of all. Let's step back and look at the broader picture. While the Pentagon argues the opening phase went as planned, with Iran's military infrastructure damaged, wars are almost never decided by early battlefield success alone. Strategic victory requires stable alliances, economic resilience, and sustained domestic support. Right now, all three of those pillars look uncertain. And with this conflict unfolding months before U.S. midterm elections, that context is central. History shows wars can strengthen presidents who appear decisive, but destroy them when costs mount and clarity fades. Rising energy prices, reluctant allies, growing fractures inside the political coalition. These are not minor variables. They're the conditions under which electoral landscapes get reshaped, sometimes irreversibly. The question voters will eventually ask is not whether the war was dramatic, it's whether it was necessary and whether it worked. Here's where we land. Right now, the answer to the central question is genuinely unclear. Trump may be winning certain battles. The opening military phase has achieved some of its stated objectives. Iran has taken real damage. But the broader war, geopolitical, economic, domestic, is still being decided. And on those dimensions, the trajectory is uncertain in ways that should concern anyone paying close attention. History will not judge this conflict by the number of targets destroyed or shipping lanes temporarily reopened. It will judge it by something more enduring, whether it left the world more stable or more dangerous. That answer is still being written. We'll be watching. If you found this useful, you already know what to do. Share it with someone who needs to see 3 moves ahead. Join the protocol. While most people are reacting to the news, we're already 3 moves ahead.